Thank you guys for having us. My name is Heather Kurtner. I'm the lead treatment court coordinator for the 5th Judicial District. I run the Rock Nobles and Pipestone Murray adult drug court programs and supervise the other programs in our judicial district. I am here with Michael. Michael is a current participant of the treatment court program here in Nobles County, and he will be graduating in less than 2 weeks. So Michael will be giving you all his story when we get to the end of the presentation. I have a lot of treatment court team members here and former team members here. So it is really nice being able to look out and see, Sherry and Fred and Morgan and Tony and Nikki and all of these supports here. I also see some participants. So, hello. All right. We're all here because we know that there's a problem. The problem is that an estimated 107,000 Americans died of a drug overdose just in 2021. In 2021, here in Minnesota, we received information that overdose mortality became the leading cause of injury death in Minnesota. Prior to that, it was accidents. So now it's overdoses. That's a leading cause of injury death here in Minnesota. Those deaths increased 22% from the previous year. And that's huge, primarily driven by synthetic opiates, fentanyl, and methamphetamine. In 2019, alcohol impairment accounted for 28% of all the traffic deaths. So we know that drug and alcohol related deaths is a huge problem, not only in our state, but in the country. So the prior thought with how to, deal with addicts is prison. Send them to prison. We all know, sitting here, who have worked in the system, that prison doesn't work. Prison is not a solution. 65% of the prison population has an active substance use disorder. They are using while they're in prison, and as mentioned before, and will be talked about later, people who are in jail or prison have a significantly higher risk of overdose death following release. Less than 20% of the people who are in prison or incarceration receive any type of formal treatment. And the recidivism, when people are released, 68% are arrested for a new crime, half of the people have violations, and 95% relapse. Treatment court is a solution. Treatment courts are 6 times more likely to keep people in treatment long enough for it to actually work, by holding people accountable, supporting them, giving them those resources. Family reunification rates are twice as high for people who have children and are working in treatment court to alleviate substance use disorder issues. And people who complete treatment court are twice as likely to remain free from arrest after 3 years. So that criminal recidivism goes down. There are several types of treatment courts. We're going to focus today on the adult drug court that we have here in this area. But we have adult drug courts, juvenile drug courts, DWI courts that focus just on alcohol, family dependency treatment courts, mental health courts, and veteran treatment courts. In the 5th district, we have 9 adult drug DWI hybrid courts. We have 2 family dependency treatment courts, and the entire district is encompassed by 1 veterans treatment court that's housed in Mankato. So people who have military service experience can work with that veterans treatment court. Costs. Money makes the world go round. We all know that. The average cost of a person to be in prison in 2020, this is when I was able to get the last info, was almost $40,000 per inmate per year. It's a significant amount of money. In Minnesota, the cost is even higher, almost $50,000 per inmate per year to be in prison. The average annual cost for somebody to be in treatment court, $5,000. Helping people saves the state a significant amount of money. Not only are we saving money from prison costs, but people who are in treatment court often do community service work, either volunteer work or through sanctions to help pay off their fines. So they're giving back to the community that way. CHIPS cases, we know that it costs a lot of money to be going back into court and to place children in foster care and everything that goes along with that. But we're bringing people together quicker. They're staying together longer. So we save money in those CHIPS cases. And employment. Almost every participant in a treatment court program is working. They're employed in some way, either full-time, part-time. So there's tax revenue going back into the community. Practical money savings. Minnesota Cornerstone Drug Court. It's a great program. I'm excited that you all are here to hear about it. We actually have two of the founders of the Cornerstone Drug Court here. So it's great. Sherry and Morgan helped get the program started. The Minnesota Cornerstone Drug Court program is a hybrid DWI. Sorry, I guess Steph is here too. Sorry, Steph. Founder. You're sitting further away. We work with people who have drug issues and alcohol issues. So we are a sentencing alternative for people who have serious problems with substance abuse and are involved in the legal system. Primarily, we work with people who have felony level charges and they enter drug court on a plea, or they are coming in on probation violation issues because they're having a hard time staying clean and sober in the community. We work very closely with treatment and all parts of the criminal justice system to provide this wraparound support for participants. Everybody is kind of pushing that same agenda of recovery. We're providing support, we're providing consistency, and we're working together to create a healthy habit for people to live by. We are very intensive. We are 18 to 24 months for most people. Some end up staying a little longer because they really like us. We have a progressive plan to help reinforce those acceptable habits: working, going to school, being a supportive parent, making good choices. We really help people and want to help people break that cycle. We cannot do what we do without our team. Every single member of that team is important. Our team includes the judge, the treatment court coordinator, probation, the prosecutors and defense attorneys, law enforcement, jail, treatment, both CD and mental health, and social services, human services. They all provide necessary roles, and their professional expertise is all thrown into the middle of that table so that we can make sure we're getting everybody what they need to be successful. The mission of treatment courts in the 5th Judicial District is we will enhance public safety by holding offenders accountable for their actions while assisting them to achieve long-term recovery and become productive members of the community through a collaborative, multidisciplinary team approach. That's a mouthful. Essentially what that means is that we have both the support of that treatment. We're going to give you everything that you need to break that cycle of addiction. But we also have that law enforcement criminal component where we're still going to hold you accountable for what has happened and the consequences of that in a legal standpoint, to kind of get the best of both of those worlds and get collaboration from everybody. We know that people with substance use disorders are the most vulnerable to intervention right away when they first get arrested. So our involvement with people has to be immediate. We have to help people right away. We know that open communication is incredibly important. So we have to coordinate all of these services with everybody, make sure everybody on the team knows what's going on with this person, who this person is, and what this person needs, so that we can get the services to them right away. We know that substance abuse does not happen in isolation. We talked about this. Mental health and substance use often go hand in hand. So we need to make sure that we're assessing medical issues, mental health issues, substance use issues, housing, employment, education, all of that to help people be successful. We also know that relapse is part of that recovery process. So we need to make sure that we are targeting the behaviors right away in a way that will help. So instead of putting somebody in jail at the beginning of their treatment because they had a recurrence of use, we're going to make sure that we have treatment giving them a different type of intervention, because the jail doesn't work. This is a lot of words on one slide, so I'm not going to read it all. I know this goes against the PowerPoint rules. But we do have, treatment court is evidence-based. We know through research what makes treatment courts work and how they work. And part of that is our 10 key components of treatment courts. We're a collaboration with treatment and the criminal justice system. We know that we can't be adversarial. You know, pounding your fist on the table doesn't help people become sober. People need treatment. People need support. People have rights. We try to identify people early. So we work very closely with prosecutors, defense attorneys, and probation to identify the people who need help right away. We have that continuum of treatment. People are in treatment court longer than outside of treatment court. Most often, people start with inpatient treatment, outpatient treatment, aftercare, and provide that ongoing support throughout their time in the program. We have some people who they're not required to go to treatment, but because they've been in there for that long, they continue to stay and seek that support and have that guidance. And those people who are the professional team members on their team have just turned into informal supports. That connection to that recovery community is huge. Coordinated strategy. We work with counties, we work with the state, we work nationally to make sure everybody is utilizing those evidence-based practices. Interaction with the judge. The judge is kind of a big deal, right? Yeah. Our judge is a big deal. Our judge is pretty awesome. And participants sit in front of the judge at least twice a month to really talk about what's going well with them, what areas they need help with, and what we as a team can do to continue to support them. Interdisciplinary education, that's educating our team members. We have trainings, we continuing ed, all that fun stuff to make sure that everybody's on the same page and that we know what the newest best practices are available. And partnerships. We collaborate with almost everybody here to make sure that we're getting people what they need. In our program, the target population are adults. They have to be 18 years or older. They have to be a resident of the county or the court referred. So here in Worthington, they have to be a resident of Nobles or Rock County. They have to be diagnosed with a substance use disorder, and they have to qualify for treatment. They have to meet our high risk, high needs qualifications, which essentially says that they are at high risk of relapse or recidivism, and they have high needs that we can service in the court. They also have to be willing to be in the program. That's sometimes a touching point with, well, some people really don't want to come to drug court because they know it's a big commitment. However, that motivational interviewing that everybody hears about can go a big way with helping people understand that we're here to help. That's all we want. As far as disqualifications, we can only have people in our program that can be safely managed by our program. Felony level criminal sexual conduct, very violent history. We can't safely work with them in our program. People who are dealing just to deal, we're not in the business of giving dealers customers. Working as a confidential informant with law enforcement, that makes it really difficult. Some people have cognitive, medical, mental health issues that are so significant that we can't effectively treat them in the program if there aren't any resources or services available to mitigate those symptoms. Also, if they don't have much probation time, we can't serve them. Probation is integral. Phased structure. So in our programs, we have 5 phases. When people start in the program, it's a little more intense. Yeah. You're doing 2 to 3 drug tests a week. They meet with their probation agent at least once a week, generally several times a week, at least by phone, if not in person. They have a 9 o'clock curfew. They have to come to court twice a month. It's really an opportunity for us to get to know them, or for them to get to know the treatment court program and the treatment court team. As participants move on through the phases, their restrictions decrease. Their curfew moves from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock, midnight to no curfew. Drug court hearing, they come twice a month in phases 1, 2, and 3, once a month in phase 4, once every other month in phase 5. So phase 5 was implemented in 2018. And phase 5 was added to the structure as an opportunity for participants to really try everything they've learned in treatment court on their own before you just kind of cut them loose. We can still keep that, a little bit of that contact, a little bit of that support. They still have some good contact with probation, but they're practicing going out on regular probation, living the life that they have been working toward. People who are in treatment court have to follow all of their treatment plans. So if somebody completes inpatient treatment and the treatment provider says, hey, I really think you need to go to a halfway house, you got to go to a halfway house. You need that support. Mental health needs. We have mental health professionals who sit on our teams. Most of the participants have meet with our mental health professionals to have an assessment to determine what type of supports or services they need or could benefit from mental health wise. Our participants have to perform 40 hours of structured activity, which seems a lot, but that includes working, going to school, going to treatment, going to sober support meetings. We talk a lot about idle hands are the devil's playground. It's really important for people to be busy doing structured, positive activities so that they don't have those down moments to think about triggers. Our participants have to attend 2 sober support meetings a week. Those could include any type of sanctioned support meeting, AA, NA, Celebrate Recovery, Smart Recovery. We don't have Smart Recovery here in Worthington, but knock and chats from law enforcement. So law enforcement and the jail are good supports in that they help with that accountability piece. You know, we talk about that treatment piece, but the accountability piece of making sure that participants are home at night so that they're developing those healthy habits and routines, that structure. Okay? They also try to change that belief that law enforcement is out to get me. You know, creating that positive relationship where if you see a law enforcement officer, they're not going to run away and be like, oh crap, what did I do? Nothing. They're here to support you. And participants have to cut ties with the addiction culture. That is huge and very hard because most of the participants that come into our program, that's all they know. Almost all of their friends use. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to have to cut off all of my friends and all the people that I think have supported me and been a part of my life and say, nope, I'm done. I'm starting with nobody. And developing those pro-social activities. That sober network of friends. Knowing that not using drugs doesn't mean you don't do anything. You're not stuck in your house and stuck at work and stuck at meetings. You can still have a very healthy, happy, fulfilling life without using drugs and alcohol. All participants also have to obtain a valid driver's license and have a GED or high school diploma before they leave our program. That helps with that structure, those life goals, that independence, the ability to take care of themselves and their family and loved ones, and help set the path for a wonderful future. Outcomes. We know that treatment courts reduce recidivism. Graduates are arrested and booked fewer times than people who don't go through drug court. People who graduate treatment court have shorter periods of incarceration. So if they do get in trouble, it's usually for a minor offense and they can go back on with their life. Similar to recurrence of use, treatment courts reduce that. There is a lower rate of relapse. And people who do have a recurrence of use after graduating the program have a shorter period of that. They're able to jump right back into their support meetings, their formal and informal support people, and get back into their recovery quicker. We also reduce costs. We talked about that a little bit. Participants are more likely to be employed. They contribute to their community. There's those societal costs. Okay. I went through my thing really fast, so you guys will have a lot of time potentially. So this is a video that has been done by NADCP, the National Association of Drug Court Professionals, called Treatment Court Graduates Rise.
Addiction touches every one of us, but so too does recovery. To each and every person who has done the difficult work recovery demands, thank you. You are living proof that every one of us is capable of change.
I don't think I would have ever stopped. I needed some kind of drastic intervention.
I was meant for better. I was meant to do more than wear orange and sleep in a small cell for the rest of my life.
To be able to look in the mirror and know that I'm looking at somebody that I can respect.
I'll never go back to jail. I contribute, I pay taxes.
I was granted a full and free pardon by the governor of the state of Maine, and I no longer have a criminal record.
And the judge looked at me and said, "We want to help you." It really changed my life. I want to help break that cycle so that maybe my kids never have to go through what I've been through.
And I was not spending all this time in jail. I was spending time with my children.
There's no doubt in my mind without drug court that I would still be out using if I was even alive. To be able to complete something that you work hard at.
And I rise up, I rise like the day, I rise up, I rise unafraid, I rise up, and I do it 1,000 times again.
They believed in me until I was able to believe in myself. Had I not had the opportunity to participate, that I wouldn't be here today.
And then I had treatment providers that were willing to help me too. And that's not something I'd ever experienced in my life. I went on to battle for custody of the boys for 353 days, and I was awarded full custody of both those boys by the same judge who had helped save my life.
To have that whole team of people that is there to remove barriers instead of put them up.
I just want to leave an impact, and I want my kids to be able to say, my father made a difference. He really did.
I was able to become again a father, but I am a productive citizen. I am a person in recovery that appreciates life and that I am here to give back. And every day it's basically a blessing to me.
When I didn't believe it, when I didn't want it, and I didn't care if I had it, they still freely gave it to me.
And I rise like the day, I rise up, I rise unafraid, I rise up, and I do it 1,000 times again.
As my recovery expresses itself, it moves into being there for my wife, being there for my daughter, being there for others, helping others, paying it forward.
I just think that everybody deserves an opportunity to be given a second chance, to turn their lives around. And if I could just help save one person, I'll be forever grateful.
Over the course of the last 30 years, treatment courts have connected over 1.5 million people to life-saving treatment. Think about that for a moment. 1.5 million people who were given another chance to live life, spend time with their families, contribute to our communities. Perhaps this is not just our legacy, but our future as well. How many lives will be saved in the next 30 years? How many families will be put back together? How many children will be reunited with their parents? None of us knows what the future holds, but we can glimpse it in the faces of courageous treatment court graduates. We can hear it in their voices as they tell their stories, and when we do, we understand that there is more work to be done. In fact, we're just getting started.
And we'll rise up, like the waves, we'll rise up, in spite of the ache, we'll rise up, and we'll do it 1,000 times again.
I'm so proud of my mom, and I love her so much. Thank you, Drug Court, for helping my family.
I went from a disgrace to amazing grace. I went from nothing to something. I went from nobody to somebody. And I went from Class D to PhD. Thank you, and God bless you.
Now I have the privilege of officially introducing Michael. Michael started treatment court June 23rd of 2021, and he is scheduled to graduate on February 22nd, 2023. He will, yes. He will have been in the treatment court program for 609 days, and throughout his time in the program, he has thrived with a full-time career. He's now a homeowner. He's a father, a sober, supportive father and partner. And he is a leader in the recovery community. We're excited to see how far Michael goes. There you go.
Thank you. So hello everyone, my name is Michael Berger. I'm a proud participant of Minnesota Cornerstone Drug Court. I'm here today to tell you a little bit about my story and drug court experience. I'm going to start from the beginning. When I was about 14 years old, I snuck out and grabbed one of my sister's beers and cigarettes and went out behind my parents' house and drank it alone. I remember the feeling that it gave me. It made me feel warm and tingly inside, almost euphoric. Growing up, my parents were strict, so I would have to sneak out and drink beers and cigarettes at night, and I always felt like I was going to get caught or get in trouble. I think that was a big part of why I liked it so much at that age. The adrenaline rush of feeling like I'm getting away with something. Anything. Once I got into high school, I started to hang out with some of the other kids that liked to party and were known troublemakers. I felt like I fit right in the party scene. From there, I started having access to more booze and marijuana. And that's when I realized the benefits that the substances gave me socially and mentally. I felt like people finally saw me. It gave me the courage to do things I wouldn't have normally done. I felt like I had real friends for the first time and wasn't such an outcast when I was under the influence. Little did I know where these things would lead me. As the partying became more frequent, it would need to use and drink more alcohol and drugs to have the same effect that I had when I first started sneaking out at night. At the age of 17, I became curious of what cocaine would feel like. After asking around, I found someone that had some. He let me try it, but little did I know I was actually being introduced to methamphetamine for the first time. From there, I was a little shooken up, realizing what I'd actually taken. I didn't bother trying anything like that for a while. My partying, though, hadn't slowed down at all. If anything, it had gotten worse during my senior year in the summer. A big part of my friend group had started to fall victim to meth addiction. I started realizing this, and soon after I graduated high school, I voluntarily tried meth again without realizing what I was about to get myself into. From there, I just used it at parties and socially for probably about a year or two. As I was introduced to more people that did and sold drugs, I found that you can make some money doing it. I found out that it is about who you know. And I had gotten in with some people who were selling quite a large amount. I started selling some pot, which led to selling everything else eventually. The money was fast, but never seemed to stay. When I had access to these larger amounts, that's when my use really spiraled out of control. In a 2 to 3 year span, I'd started getting arrested often and falling deeper and deeper into my addiction. My mental and physical health were declining rapidly. I was doing a lot of very risky behaviors, some of which almost cost me my life. In the month of February 2020, I got into a high-speed pursuit on a motorcycle under the influence. It had ended very poorly, with me in the hospital, broken and bruised. Up to this point, I knew I needed to stop using drugs, but my accident was a real turning point in my story. From there, I did my best to stay sober after the accident. But under my own willpower, I was not successful. Less than 3 weeks after I got home from the hospital, I'd already relapsed on meth. I picked up right where I'd left off and was hopeless. About a month after my accident, I'd been pulled over by the same officer who was involved in my motorcycle chase. He was genuinely concerned for me, speeding pretty recklessly in the middle of the night. He found that I had drugs on me and arrested me once again. Then I got out of jail shortly after and was still hopeless and used almost first thing. No more than 2 weeks later, he pulled me over again in the same spot. That is when I hit my true rock bottom. Pleading with him that I needed help, I told him where everything was, put up no resistance, and was just asking him to help me. April 11th, 2020 was the last day I used meth. As I was sitting in jail, realizing that I wasn't getting out anytime soon, I started asking for help. I asked if it was possible to find a bed in an inpatient treatment center after I would leave jail. After serving my time in jail, I found a bed in a treatment center in Rochester, Minnesota called Adult and Teen Challenge. I went in wanting to come out a changed man. I listened and learned as much as I possibly could. One of the counselors there was a member of a drug court team up in that area and recommended that I tried it if it was available to me. After 3 months, I got discharged. I then asked my lawyer about drug court, and he brought it up to a judge and prosecuting attorney in Jackson County. I was very anxious being a free man again, but had a good start and a good basis for sobriety. During the time I was waiting to get into drug court, my mental health started to creep back in. I ended up relapsing on marijuana. Luckily, I was going to be starting drug court and outpatient treatment after some time. With the start of drug court and treatment, it snapped me out of my daze, luckily. From there, I started to work on myself. As my counselor said, it's a disease of the mind, body, and soul. I started to get the help I needed to walk through some difficult things and grow as an individual. With drug court's accountability, along with treatment's assistance, I started to become a contributing member of society. Through the help of AA and NA and working the 12 steps of recovery, I started to let go of some of the baggage that I've been carrying around my whole life. It also taught me how to deal with everyday events with a manner of thinking that all addicts have in common. Drug court really helped me out with becoming responsible and having to make a schedule and stick to it. My probation officer, Tony Vetch, was really there to help me out in the beginning. It was not an easy transition into a whole new lifestyle. And he helped me to keep me accountable by reminding me, turn in your schedules and attend your meetings twice a week. My treatment counselors were the heart of the operation, as I had to spend a lot of time with them. They taught me how to open up about difficult topics and learn how to be vulnerable with others. They helped me through a lot of difficult problems that I had with people close to me. They helped me change my thinking 180 degrees. The judge was there for all of us in drug court, all the drug court members, being very understanding and knowledgeable about the addictions and things that come with it. He would hand out sanctions to help keep us on track rather than just to punish us for what we did. This process was not easy at first. I had to learn to live a completely different way. Through the help of drug court and the drug court team, along with my very special treatment counselors, I can be the man that I always wanted to be and the father that my child deserves. I thank you all for the time you spent listening to my story today. I hope you can pull something out of this. That's all I have. Thanks. Thank you, guys.
Good job. So I'm going to touch on a few things that Michael had talked about. Towards the end, he had said that judge hands out sanctions. Treatment courts are based on behavior modification. When you make good choices, good things happen. We reinforce that in treatment court with incentives for positive behavior. Gift cards, tangible items. Fine reductions. Mm-hmm. Okay. On the other side, when you screw up, you're going to know. So that's where those sanctions are handed out. Most of the most impactful sanctions and incentives come directly from that bench, from the judge, just through verbal praise or him letting participants know that he's disappointed. Okay. For other sanctions, we do verbal warnings from the bench. Community service work. Sometimes people have to do therapeutic interventions, like writing a paper about what's going on, what is responsibility, what are your goals for the future, and how are your choices impacting you achieving those goals. Okay. Schedules. Michael talked about a schedule and Tony helping making sure he turned that in on time every week. Structure is a huge part of treatment court. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to help people develop a structure so they maintain positive habits. disconnect from those negative people in their life that are using or trying to help pull them back into that using culture. And through reinforcing those schedules and that structure, it becomes a personal habit, and you're able to see the benefits that come from that. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to put anybody particular on the spot, but there are several people that are or were treatment court team members. I don't know if anybody wants to add anything or has any comments or additions about treatment court. Emma stood up. I knew Steph would say something.
I was just going to say, if you can attend graduation, it's open court.
Mm-hmm.
Michael is graduating from our court here. What's the date?
February 22nd.
Perfect. 2/22, and court is at 10 a.m. And it is an incredible opportunity to see that in person. We saw images from the video that Heather showed, but it's just amazing to witness. I mean, I can't watch that I can't listen and see people without feeling it in my heart. And I work for Sanford, and one of the things, we as part of the treatment team, we give our time in kind. So I work for Sanford, but I do put, 3 to 4 to 5 hours every couple of weeks into participating in our local drug courts. And so I invited the executives, my bosses and whatnot from Sanford, to attend a graduation, and what an incredible experience it was for them to witness as well what they are, putting my time and effort into, and how it matters in our community. So I just really encourage all of you to think about attending a graduation or even an open drug court. It's every other Wednesday, or what would we say?
The second and fourth Wednesday.
Second and fourth Wednesday here in Nobles County, 10 o'clock. It's just an incredible experience of all of those people in our communities coming together to be a part of a helping team for people who go on to be themselves in life again. Anyway, I can go on and on because it's such an incredible, positive experience, and just really glad. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, strength, and hope.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Treatment court here in Worthington is held the second and fourth Wednesday of every single month at 10 o'clock in courtroom B, right out here at the Prairie Justice Center. We would love to have you. All treatment court hearings are open to the public, so anybody is welcome to come. All right. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
What's your graduation success rate? How many that come in?
We have a graduation rate of 55%, which is pretty high compared to some of the other programs across the nation. Nationally, it's a 45% success rate. And a lot of those people aren't necessarily because they are terminated out of the program. That includes people who receive what's called an administrative discharge. So that would be people who maybe they're in the program and we find out that cognitively they just can't meet the requirements of the program. So they end up being discharged from treatment court, not successfully or unsuccessfully, just that we don't have the services to be able to help them. Or people who, for some reason, their case is dismissed, and then the requirement of being in treatment court is done. Or their probation expires before they're done with the program. That's why we try to make sure that they have at least 2 years of probation left on their record.
And then what happens when they get discharged from the program then? Do they go back to jail, or do they refer them to somewhere else?
It depends on the situation. If somebody is unsuccessfully terminated from the program, then there's a probation violation and they have to go through the process of going back in front of the judge and being resentenced, potentially executing their sentence. People who are discharged for other reasons most often just go back to regular probation with the supports of the community. Yes?
Do program graduates stay involved in the program in any way in their support capacity?
Yeah, we have an alumni program through most of our courts. Some of them are more active than others, depending on the person and their comfort level in providing that continued support. But the alumni is really responsible for helping support new people who are coming into the program. Oftentimes sponsors new people who are in the program because they've been there and they know what treatment court's all about. They also help provide that continued sober support group. They plan sober events, pro-social activities, picnics. We have a bowling event coming up here. So yeah, they do. The alumni group is important. Mm-hmm. Any other questions about treatment court? Yes.
How do you encourage staying away from the friends you had and finding new friends? I mean, I would think that would be very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And even if it's a family member who you participate in drug use with.
It is very difficult. And a lot of that comes through building positive relationships with the participants. Probation and treatment are kind of that front line. So they are the people that are having these conversations with participants about what are your goals in life? You know, where do you see yourself and how is your relationship with this person going to help you get there? As far as people who are involved in criminal activity, then we can have those conversations about, dude, you're going to end up in jail because of this person. So I'm pretty sure you don't want that because you know what's hanging over your head is 32 months in prison. Kind of that carrot and stick thing.
I have a comment about that.
Yeah.
Because relationships and friendships, whether we're in recovery or not, are not all forever. And that helping our folks to understand that not every relationship that you start are you going to have for a lifetime. And that it doesn't mean that, you know what, you grew up with Joe your whole life and how are you going to, break that connection? We can't keep everybody in our life forever, and it doesn't mean that we don't love Joe, and it doesn't mean that we want anything bad to happen with Joe, but if we're moving forward, as Heather said, to our goals, the time for our relationship with Joe is to end. But, ultimately what we tend to see is that we will see our friends again in the tables of AA, NA, Celebrate Recovery treatment programs, hopefully, and oftentimes we do. It comes full circle and we will be together again as people in recovery. And Sherry and I were talking about it, and it's what drug court's all about, and what we've all talked about. Recovery is connection. Connection to your professionals that are going to be helpful to you, your friends that are going to be helpful to you, your family, if we're fortunate enough to have family that are knowledgeable and supportive. We have all of those connections again that are going to be just for the positive, but it is huge because we do battle that, but I've known them all my life and they've been there always for me, but yeah, they have, but my life or our life, my life with my family is more important, my freedom is more important than this relationship, and it doesn't mean I don't love you and I don't care about you, but I love me and care about me more.
And hopefully some of those people that that participants choose to kind of break away from for a period of time can see the success that you're building for yourself, and you can be that model for those people that were very important in your life that are struggling. Sure.
Thank you, Heather. I just want to say thank you to Heather and for the entire drug court team and the time and effort they put into it. Congratulations, Michael. It is a huge accomplishment. We can all measure the costs of drugs and alcohol, sort of, because you can measure the cost of treatment, the cost of the incarceration, those kinds of things. But we cannot measure the cost of success. We have someone in the room, Beth. She is a drug court alumni, and she's out there helping hundreds and hundreds of people through recovery, through Project Morningstar, and keeping them and being a peer support specialist, her and Lee, in the work that they do. So it's hard to measure the success stories it's easy to measure the failures. So, you know, even when you're looking at, you know, you're asking percentages of success, put a number on those percentages of success, and that's just huge. And I thank you for all the work you do. I am a drug court junkie.
We love Sherry. And along with those successes, the goal of treatment court ultimately is to reduce recidivism. That includes that criminal recidivism and the recurrence of use. And like I talked about before, people who graduate from drug court have a lower criminal recidivism rates. And if they do have a recurrence of use, because that is part of the cycle, they jump back onto their recovery path much quicker. That is success to us. Any other questions before lunch?
Great. I don't have the microphone, but I'll try to project. Yeah, so lunch will be served here right at noon. Let's give it up one more time.
Thank you.